Today, also, we have the privilege of having Dr. K. Subramaniam in our midst. Today, he will be speaking on how to imbibe values and impart them. It will be very useful for teachers like us. May I have the pleasure to invite Dr. K. Subramaniam, retired Pro VC, SVSI University, Bangalore, to speak on the topic how to imbibe values and impart them.
वन्दे सिंहमुमापतिं सुरगुरुं वन्दे जगत्कारणं वन्दे पन्नगभूषणं शशिधरं वन्दे पशूनां पतिं वन्दे सूर्यशशाङ्कवह्निनयनं वन्दे मुकुन्दप्रियं वन्दे भक्तजन आश्रयं च वरदं वन्दे भक्तजन आश्रयं च वरदं वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम्. Esteemed elders and my dear friends, yesterday I tried to highlight what value education is. A thing is of value if it is of use. Education is of value if it is of use. Use to whom? Use to the educated and useful to the people who are around the educated people. It should be useful to both. If one boy is educated, he must be benefited by the education, and the people dependent on him should be educated, and the society also should be benefited. Therefore, usefulness is the criterion. Then the question will be, useful at what level? At the physical level, it should be useful to keep the body healthy, trim, smart, slim, attractive, handsome, beautiful, enticing, etc. And next, it should be useful at the monetary level, must be capable of giving a job. Monetarily, it should be beneficial. The second utility is a monetary benefit. 3, it should be psychologically beneficial. The person should be in a position to maintain that equilibrium under all circumstances, and the people around him should be in a position to be peaceful on account of this man or woman. And then at the intellectual level, he should have that kushagra buddhi, capable of understanding, capable of discrimination, capable of wise judgment. And at the social and national level, should be of use to the society, harmonious coexistence, a wholesome health. And spiritually, there should be that highest widened outlook. Sarve jana sukhino bhavantu, capable of seeing the Almighty everywhere. All pervasive divinity is to be perceived by the educated person. So, value education is useful education both to the people who are educated and to the people around him. And also it is a useful education for all times. Not only during the student career, but after the student career. At every time, at every level, to all people, if we are able to give useful education, then it is value education. That means a harmonious education of hand, heart and head, a wholesome education wherein all the levels of the human structure are attended to, addressed to at the physical level. That's why yoga at every level. The physical performance of asanas is only the minutest part of yoga. There are several other levels of yoga. Yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dharana dhyana samadhi. And in that long list, You have very little participation of the physical aspect. Also, you find greater dimensions and higher potentialities of the practice of yoga. It is social, it has to be applied to the social beneficiaries as well. There are so many aspects. We have to give the harmonious approach, a wholesome pill or medicine, so that every student is upright, right, morally brilliant, ethically excellent, spiritually sublime, academically excellent also. This is value education, which I tried to highlight yesterday. Narrowing down, right value education is to answer three. One, problem facing capacity. Each educated person must be in a position to face the problems. Problems are innumerable in life. Marriage is a problem. Celibacy is also a problem. To be single is to be in a jungle. It's a problem. All right, we shall get married. To be doubled is to be troubled. That's also a problem. If you are unmarried, it is problematic. If we are married, it is equally problematic. If you are uneducated, it is a problem. If you are educated, there is a problem. If you go to the college, there is a problem. If you don't go to the college, there is a problem. There are problems everywhere. Right from birth to death, we go on facing the problems. What we need is ability to face the problem. Whether you solve it or not, it is secondary. The problem now for me is to stand here till 11 o'clock and talk. That itself is a very great problem. And the audience might say, you man, you come and stand and talk some nonsense and get out. We have to sit here and put up with you for 1.5 hours. That is a greater problem for us. There is something more difficult than talking, and that is sitting and listening to a speaker. All the teachers are given this 2 days refreshment training or orientation program to make us understand how tortuous we are to our students when we are teaching them. This is a problem. And whether you solve it or not, face the problem. Swami Vivekananda's popular story was referred to, and he was his own personal experience. He was walking in the streets of Kashi in his saffron robes, shaven head, with a walking stick and the creaking chappal. When he was thus walking, his strange attire drew the attention of a group of monkeys. When they stand on their hind legs, the height will be about 7 feet. Such was the huge structure of the monkey. About a dozen of them were chasing him. And the man instinctively took to heels to run away from them. The more he tried to run away from them, the more the monkeys started chasing him. The more he ran, the more they chased. A man at a distance, a sage at a distance, raised his hand, at the top of his voice shouted at Swamiji, "Man, don't run. Stop, look back, stare at the creatures, monkeys." And Swami took the cue. He stopped, looked back with his widened eyes, and the monkeys came close, looked at him, and coolly retreated. Society has people to suppress us, oppress us, problems to frighten us, boss to drive us, mother-in-law to pull us down. The more we are afraid of the mothers-in-law, the more they hit on our head. The more we are afraid of the bosses, the more they bark at us. The more we run away from the problems, the more the problems chase us. And value education is that education in which we train ourselves and our students to face the problem. And what is it that we require to face the problem? It is confidence. It is strength of mind. Sir Winston Churchill was a powerful speaker. He was an excellent orator. He was able to keep his audiences spellbound. There was ever the pin drop silence. They were listening to him in rapt attention every time he spoke. And the man could never go to a college, could never go to a university for higher studies because his English was supposed to be very defective and incorrect. His teachers were always angry with Winston Churchill's English, his pronunciation, his spelling, his syntax, his agreement, etc. He was having more red into marks in his answer scripts than any green tick mark. The result was he was not allowed to go to the college or the university. He could not continue his higher studies. But he was very talkative, capable of delivering goods through his words. And when he became the Prime Minister of England, two students were so fascinated by Winston Churchill's speeches that they wanted to know his secret of success. They went to him, "Sir, you are speaking wonderfully, beautifully, very enchantingly. You are irresistible, sir. You speak like waterfalls. What is it you want, my boys? We want to speak as you speak. Please tell me the secret of your success. Come to my room," he said. Took them to his room. The two students were seated. "My boys, are you ready?" "Yes, sir." They took the pen and paper, put the pen and paper back in your pockets or in the bags. "What I want is that secret is to be registered in your mind, not in the notebook." "Yes, sir, please tell me what is the secret of your success as a very good orator." Winston Churchill said, "When I stand before the audience, when I have a mic in front of me, I have two thoughts in my mind. One, I know what I am going to speak." Very simple. Every speaker will know what he is going to speak. What is the second thought? The people sitting in front of me do not know anything. That must be the second thought. The moment you think that your listener is more intelligent, more informed, more knowledgeable, you get confused. When we go to the classroom, when we face the audience, when we face the opponent, when we face the challenges, the first requirement is I know how to solve it. I know how to face it. And the opponent is weak. Confidence is shown in these two words. Whatever may be the challenge, whatever may be the battlefield, whatever may be the situation, there are two thoughts which should be present in the person taking up the challenges. One is, I know it. It's not egoism, it's confidence. And our scriptures never speak of fate. Very often fate is presented to make the students weak. Very often destiny is presented to make our willpower weak. Our scriptures, in Kathopanishad we have Nachiketa. He was asked by his father to go to Yama. Yama is no other than death. The boy boldly went, faced the god of death, and there was a talk between the two, a conversation between the two, the man on one side and death on another side. Ramana Maharshi on another one side and death experience on another side. What was said in the Kathopanishad is really experienced and experimented with by Ramana Maharshi in the recent past. That was boldness. And the result, Nachiketa Upanishad, Nachiketa fire we have today, it is the strength of mind that was capable of making him face the destiny or the death. That is Upanishadic age. Through the knowledge you can face the destiny. And in the Puranic age, you have that sweet, tender-aged girl of 16, Savitri. She fell in love with a young boy. She told her parents that she would marry him, and father invited the great astrologer Narada Maharshi. The two horoscopes were brought, and Narada, the great astrologer, studied them both and said, "Sir, this boy will die within a year after marriage. And what is the reaction of Savitri? I shall see how he dies. A challenge. Our scriptures speak of willpower, not fate power. When we face the students, when we educate the students, let us not dilute or reduce or weaken the willpower. It is the willpower that gives us confidence, strength of mind to face the problems, the challenges in life. And we have the great Markandeya. He is destined to die at the age of 16. When his parents were gloomy, when the parents were about to see that fateful day of his death, the son asked, Daddy, why are you sorrowful? Mummy, why are you gloomy? Boy, you are going to die. I shall see how I die. When Shiva is in me, what can Yama do to me? When I have confidence in me, what can destiny do to me? When I have faith in myself, what can fate do to me? That is the confidence we have to instill in the student community and also instill in ourselves. We should imbibe that spirit of strength. And that is the whole message of Swami Vivekananda. Be fearless. The entire Upanishadic literature says, Abhi, be fearless. Wherever you go to any temple, the Dakshina Hasta of the deity is Abhaya Hasta. And having been the children of our Amma, what fear should ever be allowed to creep into our hearts? It is the spirit of fearlessness. It is the spirit of confidence, strength, whatever may be the field we are engaged in as professionals. What is it that comes to our rescue? What is it that makes us face the evil, devil, the so-called fate or destiny or the problem or challenge? It is our strength of mind. Many students are very good at studies. In the examination hall, they get confused. Very many students are very good when they are talking to the people in private. The same boy, when he is asked to address a gathering, he shivers. The same boy, when he goes to appear for an interview with the UPSC team, when he is successful in the written examinations, when he is facing the interview board. Because he has the feeling the members of the interview board are more intelligent, more knowledgeable. They are not devils. They are also human beings. I know better. That is the confidence. Many students come to us. And those students must be told many inspiring stories by which you can build the confidence in them and we can imbibe that spirit of confidence. When translated into regular experience, when there is a case of death by drowning, the doctor will say, it is not death due to drowning, it is death due to fear. The more you are afraid of the water, the more you swallow water and we get drowned. If only we are a little resourceful, a little fearless, we can move the hands and legs and we can overcome the danger. It is fear that kills us. It is diffidence that pulls us down. Boys and girls are intelligent. Everybody is resourceful and everybody has that strength of mind. Let us put up with that and face the challenges. How to get it, sir? Next point. Point by point, please do come. Problem facing capacity, I am telling. And to face the problems, we require the willpower or strength of mind. And how to get that willpower or strength of mind, I am trying to give a few illustrations. In the Ramayana, we have 4 kingdoms, 4 capitals, 4 rajas, 4 areas, 4 institutions, 4 organizations, 4 societies, whatever way you call it. One is Sri Lanka, where the king is Ravan. And the place is very beautiful, highly civilized, Swachha Bharat like, we have not got it. Swachha Sri Lanka they had. It's like Singapore. On the road, you will not find dust particles. I was in Singapore. At 10 o'clock in the night, roads are washed as our houses are washed. Every tire of every car or truck is black as though it is fresh from the factory. So clean. And the commission, municipal people will come to visit your bathrooms to see whether they are wet. If it is wet, they will punish you. Such splendid cleanliness is available in Sri Lanka. Every house had a lift. Everybody owned a helicopter. Ravana's helicopter was much bigger, Pushpaka Vimana. And you find wonderful description of Ravana and his Sri Lanka in the Ramayana written by Valmiki Maharshi. In Lanka, you have both civilization and there is no culture. You have civilization and civilized people. What is civilization? Conquest of the external nature is a civilization. What is culture? Conquest of the internal nature is culture. Nature is twofold. The Panchabhutas create the hurdles, inconveniences, difficulties, adverse circumstances to make our lives less comfortable. And because of our acumen, because of our hard work, because of our technology, because of our science, we overcome the five natures and make our lives comfortable. The internal nature is there, and that internal nature is of 6 qualities, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. If you conquer them, it is peacefulness. External nature is conquered by Ravana. There is moon in his house, AC. There is gentle breeze, Malaya Marutam, wind. Everything is very, very comfortable in Lanka. And the man could not sleep on account of his lust. In Sri Lanka, you have only civilization, no culture. And this man, Ravan, was sent by his mother Kaikasi, by his wife Mandodari, to go to the supermarket in Mount Kailas. The owner of the supermarket is Lord Shiva, to shower grace, give whatever a person wants. And while going, a huge bag was given by the mother and by the wife. Ravana went, approached the supermarket, paid the dues, did the tapas, won the grace of Lord Shiva, and brought 10 kgs of basmati rice. While coming back, he was coming by the two-wheeler, and the bag had a hole at the bottom. By the time he reached Sri Lanka, not a grain of rice was available in the bag. All his tapas was a waste. Visit to Mount Kailas was a waste. Winning the grace of Lord Shiva was a waste because of the Kama hole at the bottom of his bag. Whatever may be our efforts, whatever may be our penances, whatever may be our tapasya, whatever may be our academic excellence, whatever may be our ardent work, if that single hole is present, the person has to destroy himself. He has to face his own downfall and destruction. Ravana, what a fall, my countryman. He has had the most miserable death. An ordinary, thin, lean, puny creature, Rama of 2 hands, looked at him, just said, go today, come tomorrow. Crestfallen Ravana went, and next day he perished. What a mighty emperor he was when he was not cultured. And it is the cultural education that makes Amrita University grand, not your BTech and MTech. Whatever may be the degrees you have give to your students, they will shine in the world if they are the conquerors of the inner devil. If they are the people of good culture, If two students appear for the interview, my BCom and another BCom from another college, today the society is so convinced my BCom is selected by the UPSC, not the BCom of another college, because it is known to everybody that Vivekananda College at Madurai produces cultured boys. It is the culture that gives us the stamina, strength, ability to face the problems, to solve the problems of the society, not our academic brilliance, not our excellence. It is the human excellence that is important, not the academic excellence. Ravana had academic excellence. 64 arts he has mastered. He has done wonderful tapasya. He can dance well, sing well, study well. He is a good grammarian, Veda Pandita. What was deficient in him? Only one small hole at the bottom of his bag, and that is Kama. That has brought his empire down, and his people also suffered. That land is a land of culture. I'm sorry, not a land of culture, but a land of civilization. It's not civilization that is to be acquired, it is culture that is to be. Our ancient rishis opted for the cultural conquest, not the civilization. Ravana opted for the civilization, not the culture. The whole world today is going for the external conquest, not the internal conquest. Here and there, a few institutions established by Amrita are responsible for promoting that cultural conquest. Let us hold on to that. And in this Lanka, there are two exceptions. One is Vibhishan. The other is his daughter Trijata. The entire Lanka had the other type of people where civilization was topmost, not culture, except these two, Vibhishan and Trijata. When you come to Kishkinda, you will find the king to be Vali. And the people of Kishkinda do not have culture, do not have civilization. They live in caves. They don't have luxurious apartments. They don't have helicopters. They don't have so much of cleanliness. Nor are they able to conquer their inner self, kama, krodha, etc. They are the slaves of both. They are rustic, they are rural, they are villagers, they are vanavasis, they are tribals, they are animals-like, and they are not very much cultured as well. Neither culture nor civilization was present in Kishkinda, and the king of it was conceited, haughty, proud. When he killed Dundubi, his pride got increased. When he killed the other demon, it got heightened. When he taught a lesson to Ravana, he became very, very haughty. Every time his pride got enhanced, his lifespan got reduced. It is his haughtiness, it is his conceit, pride, garvam that has brought his death. Rama is only instrumental. Ravana died on account of his kama, Rama was instrumental. Vali was proud and so he welcomed his death, Rama was only instrumental. In Kishkinda, there are two exceptions. One is Tara, the other is Hanuman. Both are highly cultured. When you come to Ayodhya, it is a land both of culture and civilization. The roads are clean, houses are beautiful, people enjoyed comforts and luxuries. There were only givers, there are no takers. Yesterday, our Swami was presenting. Do you mean to say that you have every day 10,000 beggars in your country? There is nobody to receive. In Ayodhya, everybody was rich. Everybody led a comfortable life. There was culture. There was a civilization. There were two exceptions. One is Kaikeyi. The other is Mandara. And the king had attachment. He did not have vairagya. He was not able to practice detachment. He was dutiful, at the same time highly attached to his son. Dutifulness is necessary. Detachment is equally necessary. If not, we get lost in moha. Dasharatha Maharaj, on account of his fascination, on account of his infatuation, on account of his too much of attachment to his son Sri Rama, died a miserable death. The king of Lanka died because of Kama. The king of Kishkinda died because of his conceit, garvam, pride. And the king of Ayodhya died on account of his infatuation, moha. He could not see Ram as God. Vasishtha Maharshi was able to see God as Ram. There is a lot of difference. Our students are to be perceived as divine beings. And then we have to deal with them. If you see the students as monkeys or mischievous boys, then we will be lost. Mahatma Gandhi used to say, hate the sin, never the sinner. This is very hard to practice. I practiced it in my life. One day there was a problem in my college when I took charge sometime back in 1974. And our chief Swamiji, head Swamiji Chidbhavanandaji came. I started my sentence. Swami, these rascals, I started my talk. Then Swami coolly with a smiling said, please change your phrase. Instead of saying these rascals, use these boys. There is a change in my mind. There is a different attitude. I was mellowed. I was cooled. I was balanced. I was silenced. I was able to do the things what I should do. Our approach should be very, very carefully built. And Vasishtha Maharshi was able to see God in him. Mahatma Gandhi was able to split the sin and the sinner. 99% of the problems in the institutions will vanish, disappear, if only we are capable of splitting the sin and the sinner. Boys will be mischievous. If not the boy, should I be mischievous at the age of 76? If the boys don't look at girls, do you mean to say an old man will look at the girls? It is quite common. Did you not look when you were a boy in the college? Why should we be angry with their dress? Why should we be angry with their mischievous behavior? Let us be kind. And let us have a good, kind, courteous approach towards the student community. This is the attitudinal difference that the teachers and the administrators have to cultivate. Now Dasharatha died because he was unable to withdraw himself from the attachments. He was not detached. We must be dutiful at the same time detached. Now fourth capital, Mithila Nagaram. Mithila has no exception. All are good, all are excellent, all are cultured, all are civilized. How is it Mithila is able to be superb? How is not Ayodhya? Why not Kishkinda? Why not this Lanka? I have given the reasons for each their fall. But in Mithila there is no fall. It is sustainable. It is ever pleasant. It is ever continuous. That organization, that institution, that kingdom, that Rajya, that college, that university is always wonderful. Mithila. Why? Mithila Nagaradhishwara is our Janaka Maharaj, a Rishi. Dasharatha Maharaj is not called a Rishi. Vali is not called a Rishi. Lankapati Ravana is not called a Rishi. Rishi is a person who is a researcher, who is a practitioner of the values he has been able to understand and unfold. He is not only a practitioner of the great values, but he would preach them by his example. Such is the stature of Janaka Maharshi, to whose kingdom Sukabrahma went, to whom Yajnavalkya went. The great scholars were present in the kingdom of Janaka to discuss higher concepts because he was a Rishi Raja, Raja Rishi. An administrator should be a Rishi. A teacher should be a Rishi, a loving person, a kind-hearted person, a generous-hearted person, and a person who is able to develop that empathy. There is a lot of difference between pity and sympathy, sympathy and empathy. Pity is the feeling you have, a passing kind word offered. In Nepal, there was an accident, an earthquake. We see it on the TV. Poor fellows. Finish, my pity is expressed and I go to take a cup of coffee. I talk to my wife. Pity is a passing statement of sorrow. Sympathy, when there is an advertisement in Indian Express and others for the people who are affected in the Nepal earthquake issue, please send some money, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, I send and wash off my responsibility. That is sympathy. Empathy, I place myself in the position of the victim. Amma, she has gone, she has sent her people to the villages in Himachal Pradesh. What are the pains? What are the sufferings? What are their difficulties? We feel that anguish, we feel that tension, we feel that problem, and we will solve it. That's empathy. Feel the pain of others. Feel for the poor man. On the 11th of September 1893, when Swami Vivekananda was there abroad, when he was given the posh apartment, when the people of Chicago came showering their encomiums on Swami Vivekananda's success, when they have brought gift after gift, when the food was ready, available for him to enjoy, and there was a cushion for him to sleep, all the people left at 11 o'clock and he was left alone to eat and sleep well. The man did not eat, did not sleep. He rolled on the floor and wept profusely, making 2 statements. One is, Himmai Kale Mahatma, whose heart bleeds for the poor. The second statement, Himmai Kale Duratma, traitor, drohi, scoundrel, who having been educated at the cost of millions and millions of poor people, does not think of them, does not live for them, does not love them, does not have concern for them, does not serve them. 2 wonderful definitions were given by him. One is a Mahatma. Himmai Kale Mahatma, whose heart bleeds for the poor. And that is empathy. That is Amma. That is the welfare activity program taken up by our Amrita institutions. Pity is a passing phase. Sympathy is a petty assistance. And empathy is to indulge oneself in the activity for the welfare of the humanity. And Janaka Maharaj was like that. He was engaged in it. Sri Lanka was not so. Bali was not so. And Dasharatha Maharaj's infatuation he had for Ram, and he could not see anything. He was able to see him only as son. When Janaka Maharaj, he was dutiful, he was detached, he was generous, and there was a sustainable peace and prosperity in the kingdom. And that is our ideal. This Janaka Maharaj was walking on the balcony one day, evening. Beneath, there was the beautiful park, a royal park. And his daughter, Sita, it is adopted daughter, Janaki, she was about 5 years. And his brother's daughter, Kushadhwaja Maharaj, was the brother of Janaka Maharaj, and he had a daughter. And the 2 daughters, Mandavi and Shrutakirti, his own daughter, Janaka Maharaj's daughter, is Urmila. 4 girls, Sita, Urmila, Mandavi and Shrutakirti. Along with their friends, they were playing a game in the park, and the king was walking up and down. The ball was thrown from one side to the other side, and luckily or unluckily the ball went and fell under the great Sivadhanas. The cart carrying the Sivadhanas had 36 wheels. And it was about 40 feet long. Beneath that was caught this small ball. 30,000 soldiers are required to push that cart 1 inch from one side to the other side. This girl Sita came, looked at the cart, looked at the ball beneath, with her left 4 fingers pushed that Dhanas, took that ball. And she was in a hurry to keep the time in the game. Urmila was seen, and Sita told Urmila, my dear sister, father will not be happy if the objects are misplaced. I pushed the cart about 2 feet to take the ball out. Please put it back in its place. And come quickly to see that the game is over in time. Urmila, with her left hand, pushed it back to its original place. Sita pushed to take the ball, and Urmila pushed it back to its original place. Urmila, Sita, they played. Janaka Maharaj saw this. He was happy that the children were disciplined. What is discipline? Discipline of place, discipline of time, discipline of procedure. And these 3 disciplines were available in Janaka Maharaj. These 3 disciplines were available in Mithilanagar, and therefore it is sustained. It's not momentary discipline. It's not whims and fancies of the administrator. There is a system. The men have to fit into that system. Either fit in or quit. System is permanent. And that system was established by Janaka Maharaj. Discipline of place, have a place for everything and have everything in its place then and there. I went to a friend's house. I had a little headache. I wanted an Amrutanjan bottle to be brought. That rich man called the peon, sent him to the medical shop, got me one Amrutanjan bottle. I used a bit of it, applied it to my forehead, and then I went to the bathroom. There I found one Amrutanjan bottle which has a little bit used. Next I went to the bedroom. In the bedroom there was another Amrutanjan bottle. In the Almirah there was another Amrutanjan. All Amrutanjan bottles were opened. A little bit of everything was used. In the house that day we searched and 34 Amrutanjan bottles were available. We don't have patience. We waste money. We waste our energy. And we are depriving the society of the benefit of Amrutanjan bottle. 34 are lying idle. How many saris we use in our house? 125. By mistake, if the husband comes and asks, I want to see you in the saree which I saw long ago when I fell in love with you. And now all the sarees are to be pulled, and that old saree is to be taken, by which time it is torn. Is it not accumulating more and more unnecessary things? Have a place for everything. Have everything in its place, then and there. Bathroom articles should not go to bedroom. Bedroom articles should not go to puja room. Puja room articles should not come to the drawing hall. Are we able to train our children and ourselves in the particular dictum, have a place for everything and have everything in its place? Imbibe the spirit. If only we are able to follow that principle of have a place for everything. I was the principal of the National Defence Academy. We train our children in maintaining their bathrooms, shoes, socks, everything in their respective places. The brush should not have the bristles up, because the water becomes stagnant and it may attract germs. It has to be placed to the side. And the socks also must be put in the proper place, otherwise they smell foul. Everywhere there is a lot of research. Wastage is avoided. Mithilanagar is like that. And the spirit of discipline was imbibed by Sita. And that's why she was able to become strong enough to face the challenges in future. Same thing, take it to the mind. Have a place for everything in your mind and have everything in its mind then and there. If only physics is given in its apartment, chemistry its, English its, there should not be an interchange. Boyfriend is given one room, girlfriend is given one room, husband is given one room, wife is given one room. Rooms should not get exchanged, interchanged. Dangerous. While studying physics, you have no business to remember something else house. Have a place for everything in your mind, have everything in its place then and there in the mind. That's called compartmentalizing the mind for the equilibrium of the mind. We can remain peaceful, we can be away from blood pressure. Mind can be salubrious, it can be comfortable, it can have the balanced state. And that was practiced by Janak Maharaj. And have a time for everything, have everything in its time. Sita says, I have to go in time. Urmila, you come in time. There is a time for everything. We have to complete it. We have our schedule. We must do that. We should not overlap. If the first speaker takes half an hour more, the second speaker has to sacrifice. And if the second speaker takes another half an hour, the food will be delayed. If the food is delayed afternoon, we will come and sleep here. Why can't we plan? Planning should be meticulously done, and implementation is equally meticulously to be practiced. And the third one, have a procedure for everything. Point after point, a point, its explanation, its elaboration, its illustration, and then a little humor or an episode for it. There is a formula for the cinema production. There is a formula for the love making. There is a formula for the eating. There is a formula of a procedure for the dress. To write a love letter, there is a procedure. To write a leave letter, there is a procedure. And we are taught how to write a leave letter. As I am suffering from leave, please grant me, fever cannot be written. We must be meticulous, careful. And the boys, when they write the love letters, I am very popular as a very good guide to my students for dictating a beautiful love letter for them. Your eyes are like lotuses. Your nose is like sampenga flower. Your lips are like rubies. Your teeth are like pearls. Even if she does not love, at least she will read the letter. You walk like a donkey. You look like an owl. Who will read it? There's a procedure. Similarly, when you go to the boss for a leave letter, sir, I want 2 days casual leave. Get out. Sir, yesterday, sir, in the inaugural function, sir, when you were speaking English, sir, beautiful, sir. Wonderful, sir. You spoke only for 10-15 minutes, sir. You should have spoken at least for 1 hour, sir. And the man will be bloating. But sir, tomorrow, sir, I am told you are giving the valedictory address. Yes. But sir, unfortunately my parents are coming tomorrow, sir. How am I to miss your talk? Doesn't matter, parents are more important. You take the permission and go. I don't want to permission leave. No, doesn't matter, you go. There's a procedure for taking leave. There is a method. These three make the discipline. Discipline of place, discipline of time, discipline of procedure. You observe it, Amrita becomes number one. It becomes unique. Sitting here, I can tell what teacher is taking what class in my college. Standing here, I know what program is taking place in my institution. I need not go and see. So meticulous, all the planetary movement, sunrises, sunsets as per the plan. Everything is systematized. That system is to be implemented. And Janak Maharaj did it. And the output, the children, Sita and Urmila, what a wonderful sacrifice they have made. How they are able to face the challenges. Any disciplined product will have the ability to face the challenges, face the evil. In National Defense Academy, we toughen the body, we toughen the mind so that they can face the challenges. We have to face the challenges of life. When whatever may be the subject they study here in the institution, What is important is try to make them face the problems of life, to solve them. It's not enough if you are to face the problem, you have to solve the problem. And for next is solve them for the benefit of the society, not for your selfish purposes. When a man is going in the forest, if he comes across a river to be crossed, he can swim and go to the other side. But it's not proper. He searches for a log of wood, throws it across, walks on it so that his wife who cannot swim can walk, his children who cannot swim can walk. All these benefits. Here also we find Ramachandra Prabhu. Sri Ram was trained in Vamshavruksha's prestige. It is told in the palace of Dasharatha Maharaj, we have the great statues of his four fathers. Dilip Chakravarti, Sagar Chakravarti, Bhagirath Chakravarti, Harishchandra Chakravarti. What an amount of sacrifice they have made. And Dasharatha used to inspire Ramachandra Prabhu always. Look at this man, look at that man. They never spoke an untruth. They spoke always the truth, they never told lies. Satya Vakya Paripalana. Inspiring. And yesterday our Swamiji was telling about the great family pride, national pride. I had the opportunity and invitation to go to London a year ago. I was in Oxford. There was an exclusive building, the history of science in England. The history of science. Agastya Maharshi is supposed to have created the first dry battery cell. How many of our students know it? What is the authentic information we have? In which Samhita is it written? While dealing with physics and battery cells and all that, why can't we make a reference to that to create a national pride? How many scientists, metallurgy, helicopters, even the calling bells, phones, in every field, do we not have the great stalwarts in our country? Giants in our country? Have we ever been able to bestow our attention, our students' attention on the national pride and the people who have brought that glory to this country? Should there not be a book of history of science in India? Vedic mathematics. You can go on elaborating. And there are people who say Shakespeare and Kalidas. Kalidas is the Shakespeare of India. I put it the other way. Shakespeare is Kalidas of England. Bombay is considered to be Manchester of India. I say Manchester is the Bombay of England. Why should we belittle ourselves? Should we not have that glory? Everywhere we are belittling ourselves. Our national pride, that's what Rama did. Dasharatha Maharaj was always inspiring. You are born in Surya Vamsha. You are born as the son of Mother Bharat. You are the beacon light to the entire universe. That will give us the additional strength and resourcefulness to solve our problems. First is ability to face the problem. The second is resourcefulness to solve the problem. Yogaha karmasu kausalam. Kausalam there means comfortable. You feel easy while working. Some people sing songs. Beautiful song it will be, but we cannot look at the face of the person who is singing. Facial contortions. We feel like running away from his face. Similarly, there are people who do wonderful deeds, but they are not capable of performing the deeds with ease. Karmasu kausalam. Aklishta karmana Rama is described. While performing any activity, he does not feel the strain of it. When Sugriva suspected his abilities, he just took an arrow and he was able to fell 7 Saul rays. When Sita was troubled by a Rakshasi or Rakshasa. He took a kusha, a small blade of grass, and it became a weapon to drive away the devil. An electrician once came to my house. I invited him because there was no electricity, fuse off. And do you have a screwdriver? He asked. No. Don't worry, sir. Bring a spoon. The back of the spoon I use for the screwdriver. Do you have a cutting plier? No. Don't worry, sir. In the kitchen there will be the holder. Please bring, I will use it. And then he asked, do you have a copper wire, sir? No. Your wife must be having a pattu sari. Yes. Bring it, sir, he said. Just he took a thread, jari, folded it, made it a wire, replaced, got the electricity. Resourcefulness. Sri Rama had it. Sri Krishna had it. When that wonderful weapon was darted to kill Arjun, Nagastra, he was resourceful enough to pull the reins of the horses. They fell on their knees and the weapon hit only the hat of Arjun, the cap of Arjun or the kirita of Arjun. Resourcefulness. Our students must be trained to have everything. This or that. You don't get lost. Be bold enough to face and be resourceful enough to solve the problem. And while solving the problem, you have to be useful to the fellow human beings. This is the second step, the last. Ram, Sita and Lakshman were going to the forest. Everybody is aware of the situation. Instead of telling the story, Rama, Sita, Lakshmana, and the wish of the father, and the developments in the capital, in the palace, and which have made them go, etc., why can't we present the symbolic aspect? In the palace, everything is comfortable. And from the palace to the forest in exile, they are going. Everything is uncertain in the forest. We do not know where the food comes from. We do not know where the fire breaks, where there is a river, where there will be a lion pouncing upon you. Everything is uncertain in the forest. Everything is systematically planned in the palace. By the stroke of bell in the hostel, you get the food. By the stroke of bell in Ayodhya, you get your breakfast. As long as you are in the hostel, my boys, everything is systematized. But in the wide world outside, nothing is certain. Ram, Sita, Lakshman are not three individuals. Ram is the intellect of the human being. Sita is the mind of the human being. Lakshmana is the body of the human being. Every person has body, mind and intellect. We are composed of the three components. Every person has a body, maybe tall, maybe short, maybe brown, maybe white, maybe black, maybe dark, maybe handicapped, but there is some gross structure, and in which there are two components, mind and intellect. They are to be put together, kept together for the wholesome, healthy living. And this body role is played by Lakshmana to keep Sita, Rama always together by making them a hut, by giving them food, by getting the requirements. He was doing the work of a body. And Sita was the mind, always being drawn to the outside things. Sometimes with Ram, sometimes with nature. It was this mind that was lured by that golden deer. It is fascinated. It is the mind that gets drawn or attracted to certain outside things. And intellect is supposed to check them, control them, guide them, bring the glory back, restore everything to normalcy. And that work is done by Ram. Body, mind, intellect, equipment is represented as Sri Ram, Sita and Lakshman. And these people have gone from the palace to the forest, from the systematic life to the uncertain life in the wide world. And the way, when the child is progressing, when the child has come to this earth, we have 4 types of education. One is primary education, the second is secondary education, the third is collegiate education, and the fourth is your university education. And in the primary education, LKG, UKG, first standard, second standard, what is it that is taught? At home, the child eats always. Whatever it finds, it eats and puts. in the mouth. First thing is you regulate your diet. In the primary education, in the Ramayana, Ramchandra Prabhu is taught Agastyaha Niyataharaha. All the creatures all over the world have 4 instincts. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithunancha. Urge to eat, urge to sleep, urge to procreate, and the intrinsic feeling of fear. These 4 are present in every creature. A rat is afraid, man is afraid, everybody is afraid. A rat is afraid of a dog is afraid of another creature. But man is afraid of cockroach, rat, cat, dog, everybody. And including the cockroach in the kitchen, a puny wife creature. Scared. Everywhere, bayam. Now, we are going from the systematic life where we have a fort of protection to the place where there is no protection, and therefore 4 types of education, 4 teachers, 4 acharyas, 4 professors, 4 rishis. Agastya Maharshi, he taught Ram plus Sita plus Lakshman, man, be not a slave of food. Yes, sir. Got 100 out of 100 marks. Sita got 100 out of 100. Lakshmana got 100 out of 100. Every child is expected to regulate the diet. Second, they have gone to the second rishi, Sutikshana Maharshi. Tikshanamana Drikkugal. The person who has always the wide open penetrating looks. Never closed, never slept, never idle. Always alert, arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. Be awake. If at all you want to get a gold medal, don't sleep, man. If you want to shine in life, be alert, be up and doing always. Be dynamic. And that was given in the next education, plus 2 level. If you want a seat in engineering, if you want a seat in medicine, don't sleep. Work hard. And Sutikshana Maharshi is the person who has conquered sleep. All the 3 got 100 out of 100 marks. Then Rama plus Sita plus Lakshmana went to the next place, and that is Sharabhanga Maharshi. Shara is the arrow of Manmatha. Gandiva is that of Arjun. Kodanda is that of Sri Ram. Both are bows, but Arjuna's is called Gandiva, Rama's is called Kodanda. Similarly, many creatures are born in water, but this Shara, Pankaja is only lotus. Similarly, Shara is that of Manmatha. That Shara was broken by Lord Shiva's third eye. Sharabhanga Maharshi is the person who has resisted all the temptations. He has not yielded to the temptations. If you study our students, LKG, UKG, first standard, second standard, fifth standard, they get 100 out of 100. And 6th standard onwards, marks will be slowly coming down. By the time they come to the plus 2 level, there will be a small hair growing on the mustache side. The boy will be looking at the girl side. Girls will be looking at the boys' side. And the marks will come down because of the temptations. And that Sharabhanga Maharshi said, Ram, if you want to achieve something great in your life, let not Kama enter into your mind. Where Ram is present, Kam is not present. Rama and Kama cannot coexist. And wonderful. Next they have gone to Bharadwaja Maharshi. Bharadwajaha Nirbhayaha. The moment you are afraid, you are nobody. The more you conquer the fear, the more you achieve great things. Bharadwaja Maharshi taught them the lesson of fearlessness. And finally, having passed all the 4 tests, only Sita got 99.99999 marks. That's why she was unable to completely control her mind of temptations. She fell a prey to that dare, and therefore the problems, etc. Finally, they have gone to Anasuya and Atri. Anasuya is the moral excellence. It is ethical excellence where jealousy is absent. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya is jealousy. When jealousy is conquered, you have conquered everything. And it is in the mind of moral excellence, it is in the mind of ethical excellence that spiritual spark would come up, and that is Atri. Beyond the time, space, and causation, beyond past, present, and future, beyond all three genders, avasthatraya, kriyasthita, karmatraya, kalatita, all these technical spiritual terms are indicated in Atri. Atri is not a human being, it is a spiritual state of sublimity. Anasuya is not a woman, it is a state of ethical excellence, moral excellence. Unless a person is morally, ethically excellent, he is not fit to be spiritually illumined, and that is demonstrated in the ashram of Anasuya and Atri, and they have entered the life. In our universities, we have to regulate these four. In the hostels, diet, through the examinations, sleep, and when we are offering the co-education and other temptations are to be resisted, and totally fearless our boys must be trained to. If only it is trained, then they will be the masters useful to the society. Ram, Sita, Lakshman have become the conquerors. They are the glorious people. If you are a slave, okay, almost all the people are like that. If you are very much a slave of these three, four, you become Rakshasas. Ravana is a Brahmana. But because he is a slave of Kama, he is today called a Rakshasa. Kamsa is the maternal uncle of Krishna. Because he is not able to conquer fear, today he is called a Rakshasa. Kumbhakarna is a Brahmana, the brother of Ravana, because he is unable to conquer his tongue and the sleep, he is called a Rakshasa. In the scriptures, you have Devaki Devi, a woman, ordinary person. Her husband Vasudeva is a man. Her son Krishna is divine. Her brother Kamsa is Rakshasa. They are the traits. When you are able to conquer these four ahara, nidra, bhayamaidunam, you will become a governor, you will become a collector, you will become a great person. Amma sits 18 hours, 19 hours, 20 hours, continuously conquering all the four. Is it not a divine quality? We try to connect the modern examples with the ancient mythological characters and the needs of the present day society, a harmonious coexistence, and epics must be properly utilized. We should imbibe that spirit by a system of national pride. Let us remember that. Rama has been able to, and establish discipline in the campus. A system is to be evolved, sustainable system. If these things are done, we become the men to run the system. Whoever comes into this system also will be molded into a beautiful, wonderful, helping citizen of this country, a patriot of this country, another divine character. A magnet makes an iron piece also a magnet. When this system is well built with the foundation of discipline, which is discipline of place, discipline of time, and discipline of procedure, and when we are well equipped with all the other things like national pride and self-sacrifice, there are so many stories how Sri Rama has been trained in self-sacrifice during their childhood, how Rama and Bharata were weighing with each other to give the credit to the others, to lose at the others' hands. Beautiful small stories are there in the original Valmiki Ramayana and the original Vyasa Mahabharata. The main story is one particular aspect. There are so many upakhyanas in which we have life lessons. Let us try to use the epics. Let us try to use the example of Amma and the national characters. Let us build this Amrita University to be a university which prepares men and women of sterling character so that society is benefited. Let us once again become a beacon light to the entire globe. Thank you very much. It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you, sir, for exploring the problematic positioning of human beings, encouraging us to how to face problems and develop confidence in ourselves. Also, the tips and techniques given to us will prove to be highly useful when we are in the classrooms. stressing the importance of an attitudinal change. The talk was absolutely thought-provoking. Sir also stressed on the need of a systematic, harmonious teaching learning establishment, giving care and understanding to the students. Thank you, sir, once again. Now, sir, if you don't mind, can we have a the floor is in fact open for discussion. If you have any queries, we can clear it from sir.
So in the modern world, is so turbulent and where we are lashed on all sides by materialism and consumerism, how is it possible for the teachers to impart such values to the students who are the victims of this consumerism and materialism? From the practical point of view.
I have spoken for 1 hour 15 minutes. I don't know whether you have noted the time. And at the end, you all clapped. I want it to be a systematic clapping. I am by nature a system maker and system sustainer. That's why my college, even now after my retirement 16 years ago, continues to be on the track of discipline, even today. I now would like to train you how to clap. I am 76 years old. I am the senior most in the hall. Therefore, you need not consider it to be mere obedience to a strange person. It is an offering to an old man. You take it that way. And I just give you 3. 1, 2, 3. When I say 3, please clap only once. All claps must be identical. At the same time, when I give 3, please be ready. Nobody should escape from this training. Please be ready. 1, 2, 2, 2. This is the answer to his question. He said the entire world is going towards materialism and consumerism. How to train our children to resist themselves from the attractions of materialism and consumerism? I have sufficiently highlighted in my talk. As long as my son was there with me, I never used the TV set. Even today, I don't have a TV. Do you mean to say it is bad? Whatever I require, it is in my email when if it's news or some such thing. I never slept before 11 o'clock when my son was studying in the house. He was able to get a seat in merit in engineering. He was able to shine. There should be an example. Similarly, as long as the children are present, parents have to make the sacrifices. Does any mother take ice cream when the baby is suffering from cold? When the breastfeeding is still continuous, when the children are prone to have the cold, does not the mother take care to see that her food is under control? It is for the sake of the child. We appoint an ayah to take care of the children. You give a timetable. 7 o'clock you give Horlicks, 8 o'clock this, 9 o'clock that, this, and you give a long list. Monday to Saturday the ayah is in charge of the baby. 8 o'clock she goes with the Horlicks to the baby and the baby is asked, would you like to take Horlicks? No, the baby says. Second time he asks, third time she asks, and the fourth time she drinks. By the end of the week, Aya is becoming fatter. When you come on Sunday in the morning, you see the child punished. And you have the timetable, you offer the child the same Horlicks at 8 o'clock. The child refuses as she is accustomed to saying no. Do you drink? No. Carry the baby in your waist. Go to the terrace. Show the sea. Show the birds. Show the cars beneath. Show the railway track. You place something and see to it that the child is fed with the knowledge, with the morals, with the instructions. It's the love. Similarly, when we don't want our children to be tempted towards this consumerism, let each family, parents have to take certain sacrifices, selfless steps. So also teachers. In my college, anybody I put a challenge, you can go now. My students having gone out continue to eat that hand-pound rice. One of my boys 4 days ago was in IPS. I went to his house. The bhajans I was doing in my college, he taught his children. The food he ate, he does not take coffee, tea. His wife does not take, his children do not take. For 5 years he was trained by me. Not only he, thousands of students every year. We set an example of simplicity, austerity, punctuality, all values, discipline. You cannot find a single piece of paper anywhere scattered on my campus. You cannot find any toilet ugly or shabby. Self-training. I am considered to be a veranda principal, not seated in my office. Signatures of the office can be done within half an hour in the night. I go round. I give my heart to my students. I live with them. I love them. Even today, after 16, 17 years of my retirement, they love me, wherever I am. That question, they are drawn. The glory of simplicity is to be presented to them in our examples, in our lives. Any amount of theoretical instruction will not be of any avail. I think I have spoken too much. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I don't know whether there is time. Actually, in continuation of what Sir was saying, sometimes when we are dealing with our students, we come across and we have to deal with parents who are so fond of their children. I call such mothers as Gandharis because they are so unaware of the problems, lack of discipline in their children, and they want to pamper their sons with whatever they ask. And it is there that we face that impact of consumerism and materialism.
Gandharis and Dasharatha Maharaj was also like that. Dhritarashtra was like that. He was symbolically blind. It is a blindness of moha. I might walk. I don't want my son to walk. I might not have put on this suit. I want my son to put on this suit. These are all fondness. This problem I solved in my college. It is children are children wherever they are, parents are parents wherever they are. I keep rapport with the parents. Every month I write a letter to every student's father, parent. And in that letter, the height of the student, the weight of the student, the chin-ups of the student, the running 100 meters, how much time he has taken, and his marks, his general good, bad. It will be a long letter. For every 10 students, there is a teacher in charge. And we keep report. When the graph is coming down, that moha comes down. After all, I have sent my son to get a B.Tech, not to be pampered in the college. The goal should not be lost sight of. When you are steadily showing the record of the boys or girls' progress or fall, the parents' eyes will be opened. That moha will be driven away. And they will be realistic. Suddenly you cannot get it. There is an entire office for that purpose. In that office, we have the records. And every teacher is to maintain the life of the student. We call it dossiers in National Defense Academy. We call it our personal records in our college. We do have it. If any person studies that right from the day of admission till today, everything will be written about the boy or girl. And it is duly communicated. And periodically, I conduct parents' meeting. First year students become students only, his parents on one day. Every weekend there will be a parents' meeting of one class or another. There are people to assist me, the staff members who are in charge of that. It's a huge machinery. You cannot have the fruits then and there. You have to develop the system brick after brick. And that system should not have loopholes. In experience, you will know where we have gone wrong. And therefore, we go on covering them up. Finally, an excellent edifice will be built in which there is no scope. If anybody in the aircraft, there are methods to know if we are smoking in the toilet. Similarly, we have certain devices by which we can come to know every activity of every student. Privacy is to the barest minimum reduced in my institution. And day's schedule is very tight that by the time he goes to bed at 10 o'clock, like a log he sleeps, his mind cannot get diverted. If you take care of the examinations, academic brilliance will come on its own. Tighten the examinations and assignments, academic. Same is the case everywhere. It's a long process. If there is a team, I am prepared to give what we have been doing in my college. Okay? Thank you.